Howdy. So this setup was supposed to be a one-off thing that I improvised from my last video, but I pepped off myself into thinking that this was a good idea. So here we go again, I guess. So today, I'm going to respond to a person called Skittybitty, who made a video called I Hate Tears of the Kingdom.
So this is my first hate response to the game. I genuinely didn't know that people hated Tears of the Kingdom this much. I believe a lot of the outcry comes from people trying to be as clickbaity as possible. They don't actually hate it as much as they do. Like this one dude called Sekiro a flawed masterpiece and made another video calling Baldur's Gate 3 an unfinished masterpiece.
What are you talking about, guy? Baldur's Gate 3 is the most polished, complete game there ever was. So with that in mind, I thought Skitty's video was pretty interesting, and I wanted to dip my toes in the Tears of the Kingdom criticism wave. As someone who liked this game better than Breath of the Wild, I thought this would be pretty fun and interesting, I guess. I don't know.
So the video starts off with the kazoo cover of the opening cinematic, and I really like it. It's fun, silly, and a very strong start to a video. There's no criticism here, I just wanted to point that out. Skitty then talked about how the trailers didn't reveal that much, and then talked about their excitement for the game.
In the months leading up to Tears of the Kingdom's release, I spent countless hours imagining what its sequel would be like. What you need to understand is that we knew nothing going into this game. We got the 10-minute gameplay demo and a handful of trailers, but those didn't really give us a sense of what the game would actually be like. Getting excited about new video games is very rare for me. I'm someone who typically believes that the only way to avoid disappointment with a new game is to go in with zero expectations. But it was borderline impossible not to fantasize about Tears of the Kingdom.
So I didn't watch any of the trailers besides the first announcement, because I already knew I was going to buy this game, and I didn't want to essentially spoil myself. I also haven't played Breath of the Wild since it came out 6 years ago, so I basically forgot what the game was like, and personally had no expectations going forward.
I'm not saying this was like this for everyone. I'm clearly an outlier here. I heard that playing Breath of the Wild right before Tears of the Kingdom ruined their experience, but I feel like any point regarding hype through its trailers or any expectations from the last game is already lost on me. Skitty then listed off their expectations they had for the game. I'm not going to go through all of them. I think it's fine to want these things, but I want to hone in on the last thing because I find it very strange.
And some elaboration on the many questions raised by Breath of the Wild through its environmental storytelling choices. What was the purpose of the Forgotten Temple? What was the deal with the Typhlo ruins, or the mazes, or Lanayru Promenade, or the massive Leviathan skeletons?
So I don't think answering these questions makes the story around them any better. One of the reasons why these locations are so cool is because they don't have answers to them. That's what makes mysteries cool and fascinating. Thinking about them is more impressive and engaging than having a simple, straightforward answer to them.
When I walk in the Leviathan, I think about how huge this thing is and how it dwarfs the dragons that are currently alive. I think it would be kind of lame if I went to the Leviathan and an archaeologist went up to me and showed me a picture of what it looks like. Having someone else imagine it for you really takes away from the feeling of just how small you really are, you know?
What was the deal with the dragons, the guardians of the springs? Springs that happen to match up strikingly well with their counterparts from Skyward Sword. What is Malice? Is it alive? Can it think?
So this is definitely a nitpick. There's going to be a lot of those in this video. But this is such a silly question, right? The Malice was a thing in Breath of the Wild. If anything, it should have been answered there, not Tears of the Kingdom. I just find it weird how this game has this weird responsibility to solve the most unnecessary issues that people had with Breath of the Wild. Also, was this a genuine concern that people had with the game? What is Malice? Were people actually wondering that?
Also, the fact that the shrines look similar is because they are the same shrine, right? Like, wasn't it obvious that that's what they were alluding to? I get that these are supposed to be rhetorical questions, but I would also like them to make more sense and have a little bit more thought put into them.
Overwhelmingly, when you meet an NPC in Tears of the Kingdom for the first time, even if you already met them in Breath of the Wild, they act like this is the first time you've ever met. And there are weird exceptions to this too. Hudson remembers you because you helped him build Terrytown, but in order for Hudson to have built Terrytown, Link needs to have bought the house from Bolson first, who doesn't remember Link. And even if a character doesn't personally remember meeting Link, are we seriously meant to believe that they don't recognize the guy who saved the entire goddamn world like within the past few years, in a world that has a newspaper?
So two things. I think Skitty misinterprets this line here. In Breath of the Wild, Bolson and Link were business partners. They weren't necessarily friends. So saying that they're pals in Tears of the Kingdom isn't necessarily a contradiction. Secondly, I don't think this point has that much merit in my opinion. Like, who cares if people remember Link or not?
And even if people use that knowledge to give him some quest, you're still doing the quests. Not much has really changed, right? Skitty thinks that having people remember Link will result in something cool happening, but there really never was any cool potential in that idea in the first place. In Breath of the Wild, the older Zora people remembered Link, and all they had to say was, "Hey look, it's Link," or "We hate Link." There wasn't any variety to what they had to say, so implementing this to literally every living NPC would make for the most repetitive and boring dialogue ever. Hey, editing me here. Just want to add a few more things to this bit. 1, I think Hestu not remembering you is kind of weird. 2, nobody reads the newspaper. 3, this guy actually made this video going over who remembers Link, and it's really interesting, so go ahead and give that a watch when you can.
So I made it to the labyrinth, and I was disappointed but not surprised to find that the layout of the maze hadn't changed between the two games. Having played Breath of the Wild to death, I quickly dropped into the maze and found the shrine immediately. Even if I hadn't, by the way, there are pine cones conveniently placed in a line throughout the maze so you don't get lost, which is kind of the whole point of a maze, but I digress.
So I actually agree with Skitty here. Pine cones in the maze was a really bad idea. Not only did they take out all the enemies, but they basically solved the puzzles for you, which basically sucked the joy out of doing them in the first place.
I made my way over to the Hebrew Sky Maze that wasn't too far away from the Wind Temple. I interacted with the terminal, the giant door slid open with some vague words about a test of wisdom, but the thing that got my attention was the mention of the ruler of owls. What was that? I was disappointed to discover that the only thing you actually do in the Sky Maze is glide around and activate some terminals, all of which are already marked on your map. So not only was the maze on the ground a total letdown, the maze in the sky wasn't much better either. At the end of the Sky Maze, the chasm leading below ground opened up, and I was instructed to skydive from up high to down below as a test of courage. So I skydived down and arrived in a third version of the labyrinth, this one located in the game's hellish underworld, the depths. It was there that I found a recycled mini-boss from the tutorial island. Yay. Once I defeated it, I was able to activate yet another terminal and was told I'd be granted a rare piece of armor cloaked in otherworldly evil. The pedestal with the treasure chest rose up from the ground. I went to open it, and are you kidding me? This can't be serious. They cannot be serious. The payoff to all of this is recycled DLC armor from Breath of the Wild. I could forgive the underwhelming ground maze. I could forgive the underwhelming sky maze. I could even forgive the recycled boss fight. But this is my reward? Armor that you can't even upgrade?
So I didn't play the DLC, so I don't particularly mind that this is basically recycled content. And I feel like Skitty glosses over a lot of cool aspects of this side quest.
Yeah, like I didn't find the sky maze that enticing either, but it was really cool jumping off a million miles from the sky into this pit of emptiness. It was neat. I also liked fighting this guy in complete darkness. That was really cool. I distinctly remember cheesing this guy too. Like there were ledges where most of his attacks couldn't hit me at all, so it was pretty fun for me to take the piss out of this guy.
If they were gonna recycle armor from Breath of the Wild, why not the barbarian armor? That would have made sense. You got the barbarian armor from the mazes in Breath of the Wild. Phantom fucking Ganon from Ocarina of Time? What does this have to do with this maze, with the ruler of owls, with anything?
So I'm aware this is a huge nitpick, but I find it weird how Skitty is completely fine with the mazes recycling the barbarian armor, but not the DLC. Like I said earlier, I didn't play the DLC, so this is like new content for me. And it's way more fitting for the Ganon armor to be here than the freaking barbarian armor. What does the barbarian armor have to do with the mazes? There's like no cool lore implications for the barbarian armor to be in the mazes, right? I just find this point sort of weird, I guess. I don't know.
Look, I get that Skitty is telling their experience with the game as a way to express their disappointment, but the problem with this is that it's not very convincing. In order for this kind of storytelling to work, it has to be relatable in some way. It becomes extremely unengaging as someone who experienced and interpreted this maze very differently. So using that as a framework to tell me that this was bad when I already think it's fine is not very persuasive. It's just not a very great hook for a video. Also, the reason why it's an owl is because it's a reference to the Triforce of Wisdom. Each maze has an animal that represents a piece of the Triforce. So Skitty compiled all the stuff that they liked about the game. They didn't completely hate it. It would be a bit rude if I didn't mention that, but the next thing they have to say is what really interests me.
The issue with Tears of the Kingdom is not that it's not for me, because Breath of the Wild was very much for me, and Tears of the Kingdom is just that game again. No, the issue with Tears of the Kingdom is that the game does not justify its own existence.
I think Skitty's thesis really solidifies why I don't like this video. We just view this game differently. Skitty wanted this game to improve on nearly every aspect of Breath of the Wild, and I didn't. Tears of the Kingdom to me is more Breath of the Wild, and I like Breath of the Wild, so I don't think I could have been disappointed by Tears of the Kingdom.
I absolutely love cheesing this game. I like watching the dumb crap people make with Ultra Hand, and I love speedrunning it. It's so much fun to watch, so much fun to play, and it appeals to me in a way that Breath of the Wild just can't. Yeah, this game has its flaws, I'm not doubting that, but Breath of the Wild is also not perfect. I know this may be a hot take or whatever, but I don't like the story of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. They were both designed to be gameplay first, so the story was written to be as bare bones as possible. But I find Tears of the Kingdom's story way more engaging because there's at least spectacle to it. Spoilers, but holy crap, Zelda's a dragon now? Wow, that's so cool. Breath of the Wild ain't got nothing on that. All Zelda did was take pictures of bugs and be sad that she's a useless hoe.
I don't mind if Skitty doesn't like Tears of the Kingdom. They're entitled to that opinion. But because we view this game so differently, I don't think I can really enjoy this review, and I stopped like 30 minutes in. I'm totally open for criticism of Tears of the Kingdom, but none of them really clicked with me so far. I was disappointed with Skitty's disappointment, if that makes any sense. Anyway, interesting video that I didn't particularly like. More better videos coming soon.